right now, it's time for some Lord of the Rings. I'm with Michael. How you doing, man?
Hi,
Great to
very
have you
good.
on stage. Shadows of
see.
Mordor, that's what we're going to be looking at. I mean, it made quite a splash at the press conference. How's it been for you guys? You were just telling me that on GameSpot 50, which is our new way of like tracking the kind of buzz around the games on the site, it's rocketed up to number 5.
Number 5, we were unbelievably
That's
excited.
amazing.
Kind of with a bullet, yeah. So it's just great that so many people are now getting to see the game, look at the game, learn about the game. And of course, here at E3, you know, get their hands on the game for the first time. So it's super cool.
I've always been curious, like, what must be like to work on, you know, a world, a story that's beloved by so many people. Like, what's that? Is that pressure? Do you feel pressure every day working on Lord of the Rings?
Oh my God, yes. It's the thing is, it's a huge amount of pressure because it's a huge responsibility. And because, you know, people are so invested in this, they love it. I mean, stories mean a lot to people.
Yeah.
We're fans of it as well, hugely. So, you know, it's an opportunity that we're probably going to get once in our lifetimes to not screw this up. But it's also so exciting. You know, the amazing thing about Middle-earth, there's so much detail, so much richness. That there's almost any story you can tell in this world. It's fantastic.
Well, let's talk about let's give like a bit of an overview of the game in case people haven't really seen the press conference or didn't see the stage show yesterday. So give us like, what's it all about? How does it fit into the Lord of the Rings storyline?
Yeah, so it's a third-person open-world action game.
Yep.
And it's set entirely behind enemy lines in Mordor. So
right, okay.
Sauron, at the end of The Hobbit, he's defeated by the White Council, Gandalf and Galadriel, and he's driven out of his fortress there, and he returns to Mordor. But he's been away from Mordor for 2 millennia. So at the end of the Second Age, the last alliance defeated him, cut the One Ring from his finger on the slopes of Mount Doom, and he's basically been away for 2 millennia. In that time, Gondor occupied Mordor, tore down, you know, the Tower of Barad-dûr, occupied the Black Gates. But over thousands of years, their kind of long watch has declined, and now the night Sauron comes home,
and he's pissed to see them there,
yeah. He slaughters you, slaughters the Rangers, takes everything from you.
So you start by getting slaughtered. I mean, do you get to play that intro bit, or is that like is that playable, like yourself getting slaughtered, or is that kind of a cutscene in the beginning?
It's absolutely the beginning of our game, you know, and we want to bring people right into the action. Like this is an open world game. It's a sandbox game. We want to get you into that world and exploring it and making your own stories as quickly as we possibly can. So we absolutely drop you into the middle of that event and that action, and into your resurrection. And you know, the player, like Talion at that point, is in the same situation. They both don't understand what's happened. They don't understand what is this power. They don't understand why they're not dead. And then so, you know, we get you behind enemy lines in Mordor with these new powers, with this mystery, and then we, you know, let you go and explore that and uncover that.
It reminds me of the intro of the very first Legacy of Kain game. Remember that? Was it Blood something? I can't remember. But yeah, you start off but the first thing that happens is you're in a village and you get killed and then resurrected. So it's a really good mechanic for like setting up the player, I guess, as to discover this new world and these new powers. So tell me about those powers. As a wraith, right? That's what you come back as.
Yep.
How does that work? Like, what are you able to do?
So in the beginning, you really are relatively limited in what you can do. The Wraith doesn't know who it is. Its power hasn't grown to the full potential, but it does have the ability to burrow into the minds of your enemies, because they're all connected to the Dark Lord. He's controlling them through fear, through domination, and basically you've sort of got a backdoor into that system to enter their mind, to see his plans, to see his soldiers. But then as we learn more about who the Wraith is, what their relationship to Sauron is, the part they played in the history of Middle-earth, those powers grow really significantly, and you start to be able to build your own army. It's almost, I mean, in a way, it's almost a bit like Saruman. Saruman thought the way to take on Sauron is to build an elite army of these Uruk-hai and to fight him on his own terms, to fight power with power. And that's kind of where the story takes us, and where it kind of grows and escalates to as we get deeper in, and here we are in the Sea of Nirn, where we really are trying to get behind enemy lines, build our own army, use the power of the Wraith to bend our enemies to our will, and actually turn them against the other orcs here.
So let's talk me through what's happening here.
Okay, so all right, I can see here we've actually got, oh, there we go.
Yeah, it's a bit easier over there.
We've got a war chief. This is Booth Baghead. So this is every one of these war chiefs, these bosses you're going to fight, they're going to be unique every playthrough. So I've never seen this guy before, but oh, and Talion's actually down.
Oh, that's not good.
And
that's not
dead.
good.
So what's going to happen here? Actually, we were going after a war chief, a boss.
Yeah.
But this guy Ishmoz, he got in the killing blow on the Gravewalker. And from the point of view of Mordor, you are the worst villain imaginable. You know, you are the ultimate bad guy to these orcs, the kind of monster to these monsters. So taking down Talion means that character, that orc, he was previously just a random grunt in the world. Now he's defeated the Gravewalker, Talion. He's going to grow in power. He's going to get promoted. He's going to become a captain. And now he's moved into Orc society. And he can continue to create new missions, new power struggles where he can challenge other orcs, he can go on missions, he can also infiltrate and become a bodyguard to one of the other warlords. He could even go all the way up and become your ultimate boss, your ultimate nemesis at the end of the game. So it's constantly evolving living world with these enemies.
So when you die, you kind of come back as your Wraith and then come back into the real world.
Exactly. So I mean, you know, honestly, in a similar way to the Ring Wraiths, they're going to be reformed when they die. Their sort of flesh gets reformed and they come back.
So did he just? How are you controlling this? Is that a warg? How's he controlling that warg?
This creature here, these are Caragors. They're kind of the big game, the big cats of Mordor, and that's true. So as well as being able to dominate and bend the orcs to your will, you can also do it with a range of the different monsters as well. So these make really good mounts because obviously, as well as being really fast for getting around the open world, they've got a couple of benefits over kind of your average horse. They're a lot better than chewing things to death than a horse is. And because they're big cats, they can use the verticality of the environment. And also, because they'll fight independently, they're very dangerous. If you jump off them, they'll make a good decoy as well. So what Jessica's actually doing here now, because we lost that last battle, time moves forward, your enemies evolve, Orc society evolves, but now we can go back and try and take him down again. So in order to do that, to draw him out, have to actually infiltrate this stronghold, this fortress, and these are very densely packed. That's sort of the, you know, thanks to the power of next gen, we can have a lot of enemies in this place even before the alarm goes off and it gets even crazier.
So you can kind of stealth your way through this as well then?
Yeah. It's sort of very dynamic living world, so we very much want all of those strategies to be valid. You can stealth your way in. You can cause a lot of chaos by manipulating the environment, unleashing wild beasts.
And you can teleport, right? Is that one of your initial Wraith powers?
Yeah,
basically?
so the Wraith has the ability to go into the Wraith world, the unseen world. And in that world, that opens up a lot of other powers as well. The power to move through that world, teleport to your enemies, hunt down your enemies, as well as kind of bending them to your will. So, you know, as we progress through the game, there's sort of a lot of growth there as well. And so the way to draw out this war chief, he's gone into hiding. Oh no, what happened then? We got seen. In that case. So the interesting thing in that case, so all of these missions are dynamically created. The war chiefs, the bosses that you're going to fight, they only reach the top of Orc society by making a lot of enemies. They basically dominate and kill and, you know, crush a lot of these other orcs. And as a result of that, they make these enemies. So they can't just go walking around in the world, or they're going to have a target on their backs. So you need to draw them out. You need to challenge them, or you need to make enough chaos that's going to draw them out. Or in this guy's case, he's really cautious. You actually need to infiltrate and sneak up on him. But all of those different missions, mission conditions, they're going to be dynamically created, specifically depending on the personality and the history and the power level of that enemy. When you say the
missions are dynamically created, so is there a central narrative, a central story?
Yep.
But then how you progress along that, the missions change? Like, explain that a bit. Like, I'm a little bit confused.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so what there's the sort of one of the overarching story objectives when you first get into the world. You want to learn the identity of the Wraith. And then as you learn more, you want to hunt down and defeat the bosses in this first region of Mordor.
Okay.
So in that way, you've got a story goal, which is to hunt these guys down. But how you go about that, that's where it's going to be completely different for every player.
So they're
and who those bosses are is going to be
I
completely
see, because
different.
it all depends on if, like, for example, that guy who killed us or killed Jessica earlier, they might become one of your ultimate big targets, right, as they progress through Orc Society.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the main story path. But then something else we're super excited about is, so we worked very closely with Christian Cantamessa, so the lead writer on Red Dead, like great guy. And so as well as that, there's a whole number of side stories in the world like that are driven by these story characters that we'll get to meet along the way. So you can either go forward, you can explore all of those stories, learn more about the Wraith, meet those guys. Gollum is one example of one of those characters. Marwyn is another one. There's a lot more of them we want to reveal. Or you can advance the main story by hunting down your enemies, or you can just explore the world. But then once you've gotten past that goal and you've killed these war chiefs, that's going to draw out the Black Captains. He's kind of one of the uber villains who's then responsible for the death of your family. And that then moves the story forward more. You can go deeper behind enemy lines into Nirn, where you'll meet Marwyn, your powers will grow. And now the whole nature of the story evolves from simply hunting and killing your enemies to actually forging your own army. So again, you can follow the side stories, explore the world, do a whole range of other activities, or you can move the story forward by building your army. And once you've built your army to the sides by dominating these war chiefs, you can take that army and take it and challenge the Dark Lord. But the guys, your nemesis that you're going to face, the ultimate boss you're going to face, he's going to be the guy you've built the most history with through the course of the game.
Right,
so, there's a really meaningful personal story there. And the guys you take with you that are your army, they're your own personal characters as well. So we really try and seamlessly weave together the living world, the organic, dynamic living world with the story moving forward.
All right, let's talk about the combat. So how does that work exactly?
So the sort of original foundation of the melee combat was very much, Arkham. It's counter.
Okay.
And then it's, build up your chains build up. They unlock all sorts of powerful abilities and instant kills, AoEs and so on that you unlock as you progress. Then I think where, we really start to get into stuff that's very unique is the way our stealth and our combat very, very seamlessly flows into each other. So, flowing out of stealth into a kind of a combat takedown, which will terrify your enemies. Fear is also very dynamic. So as you're in larger groups, as their morale breaks and they'll run, so we'll kind of segue, we'll flow very seamlessly out of a really intense melee combat into a chase scenario. Then, wildlife will come in. So we really want it to be constantly changing, constantly evolving, extremely dynamic.
Fantastic.
So
you've got your bow for your ranged combat. You get your swords as well. How does weapon customization work? Do you get new weapons as you go through the game, or is it more about your powers that change?
So again, the weapon upgrading is another area where we simultaneously want it to be extremely authentic to Middle-earth and to Tolkien. Because weapons are characters in Tolkien. Glamdring's a character, Sting is a character, and the history of Sting and his victories is actually written on the blade. It's I am Sting, Bane of Spiders. Oops,
Great.
So we very much wanted to duplicate that, and we wanted to tie it into what makes our game really unique, which is the Nemesis system.
Yeah.
So you're taking down these unique enemies. You're choosing how you take them down. Is it stealth? Is it ranged? Is it making them stab each other in the back? And so each kill is unique, and so they drop a rune, and that rune becomes an upgrade, a piece of loot that you can then inscribe on your weapon. So although you have the same sword, Urfile, who's the Flame of Vengeance, although you have the same sword throughout the game, the way you customize and write your personal story onto it because of the enemies you're defeated is gonna be unique. And that's the same for the bow, and that's the same for your dagger as well. And then we have another thing called epic runes. These are kind of the most legendary battles that you can fight against the most powerful enemies. So you can either gain them by taking down the war chiefs, defeating those, so the most powerful enemies, or by placing death threats. So you can actually warn a particular enemy that you've marked him for death, you're coming for him, he's ready for you, he actually trains, he becomes more powerful, he hangs out with a sort of bodyguard of elite troops. But then when you defeat him, you've got a greater chance of this epic loot, these runes that can really make your weapons very powerful and unique.
Gotcha.
A bunch of them. This guy's, so he's a defender. And then as well as that, you know, there's a lot of opportunities in the environment for sowing chaos as well in combat.
Yeah, I've seen them firing arrows at, you know, cages to unleash beasts, or blowing up like fires, like firing these arrows just to fire results in a big explosion.
So that power over fire and light is
Yeah.
absolutely, that's, you know, one of the powers associated with the Wraith.
Yeah.
So, and you know, I think that's a big part of the flavor of Magic in Middle-earth as well, whether we see Gandalf's power, or, you know, even Galadriel or the File. So a lot of these abilities revolve around the idea of fire and light, being able to incinerate or dazzle or terrify, you know, your enemies as well.
Cool, cool.
Grab this guy.
So just a bit about the world, because we're in one section at the moment, right? So how big is the world? How many different areas? I mean, you're always in Mordor, right? But how much? Yeah, how open is this world, basically? What I'm trying to
It's divided into regions because we really wanted to capture the most iconic regions of the world. So the opening part of the game, the sort of first act, takes place in Adun, which is Sindarin for hell. So it's just inside the Black Gates. Leading through, there's Durthang, which was a Gondorian fortress that they built inside Mordor. So it's the ruins of that fortress that are now reoccupied by the orcs. Carrick Angren, which is the sort of lead of the Black Road towards Barad-dûr. So that's our opening kind of sandbox. And then this is the second one that we've shown, which is the Sea of Nirn. So this is kind of hundreds of miles behind enemy lines, much more lush region of Mordor. This is where sort of we wanted somewhere very, very different to what people have maybe seen or what they would expect of Mordor. But we learn in Lord of the Rings, this is how Sauron manages to feed his troops. So these lush fields are going to be tilled by slaves. He's going to fish from these seas and so on. So you know, that's where Mordor's so good. You get a combination of places that are simultaneously so iconic, but we can also make them unfamiliar and explore others. There's more as well, but these are the two we've shown. And the other thing as well, there's really a sweet spot between our Nemesis system, so how many of these unique named enemies you have. So if you see in the army screen, there's you know, 25 of the guys in there, actually maybe a few more depending on where we are. And we really want just the sort of perfect density for if you're traveling from A to B, how often are you going to meet one? How often are they going to ambush you? If the world's really expansive, the density of that gets lower, and you're sort of spending less. There's more downtime, which we don't want. We're really an action game.
There's always that you know, toss-up between detail and size of world, right?
Yep.
No matter how powerful. I mean, obviously, as we get more power and with the next generation, I guess you can stretch that a bit more. You can have more detail over a wider space. But yeah, there is always that trade-off. So you've gone for the, you know, you're all about detail because you want it to be consistently action, consistently throwing you into combat, throwing you into different situations. Okay.
Yeah. So you're constantly surrounded by gameplay opportunities, you know, unless you want to, you know, if you want to stealth around and quietly pick up collectibles, but there's always opportunities, there's always something happening right there. So, you know, we want to sort of, there's opportunities for action around you at all times.
So I guess there's a bit of a kind of further, you know, zoomed out question, I guess, but like, what made you decide to bring a new character into this? Because in the past, you know, the Lord of the Ring action games we've seen, there have been many. They usually focused on, you know, the main characters from the books, from the films. They were kind of film tie-in games. What made you guys decide to think, you know what, no, we're going to create someone new, choose a different period in, like, the history of Middle-earth? Yeah, what was your decision behind that?
You know, I think in a big way we're inspired by The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings themselves. You know, so each one of those is a standalone story. You can totally read The Hobbit as a prequel to Lord of the Rings, as a standalone story, as a sequel to the deeper history of Middle-earth that happened before that. But the protagonist and the hero through that story are unique to that story, and Lord of the Rings is exactly the same. And I think that's part of what makes the world feel so big and so expansive.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you've got so much lore to draw on, you know, in the Lord of the Rings and in the Middle-earth. I mean, this is so much that Tolkien wrote. So did you like just troll through everything and try and find your perfect niche to bring your story?
And yeah, I mean, very much so. I think, you know, so there's The Hobbit, there's The Lord of the Rings, there's the appendices of Lord of the Rings, which is just, you know, over 100 pages of pure history to draw on. And the other thing, one of the things that makes The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings so amazing is the way there's so many references to deeper history and lore and mythology and events nested within those books. So if you kind of, do a detailed reading through The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings itself, there's so much to draw on. So, even characters from earlier ages. Beren is obviously a big influence, someone who started out driven by vengeance, spent his life as a bandit behind enemy lines, hunting orcs and so on. And, and then you get to being inspired by some of the same myths, especially the Norse myths, things like Beowulf, that are also then the inspirations for The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings and that mythology. So, we wanted to be as authentic to that as we could. And one of the things within Lord of the Rings, and I mean, it's a great quote by Tolkien, even within a mythical world, there always has to be some mystery. So it'd be really inauthentic not to do something new, not to reveal some mystery, not to sort of show some things from the world as well.
So let's talk a little bit about the game engine we're running here, because, and actually, are we playing this on PC or is this PS4? Or?
This is PS4.
This is PS4 we're looking at right
all
here.
Our hands-on everything at the show here is all on the PS4.
Gotcha. And so what engine is this building? Because this looks, it looks really great. It's great to see this year at E3 quite a number of games which look next-gen. Like I think what we were hoping for last year, and they maybe didn't get it that often. I mean, The Division maybe was the one exception for last year's E3. So yeah, what engine are we running?
So it's lit. It's Monolith's proprietary engine.
Okay.
And that's a huge benefit. Like, those guys are amazing. Just incredible engine team. They're there on site. This is the game they're supporting, so all of our tech and all of these, guys are totally dedicated to this game. And I think that's, obviously always been such a great strength of Monolith, is the AI, is having their own tech. That's going back to games like Fear and so on as well. It's really been a strength of the studio, so it's kind of great to be able to bring that to bear here as well.
So when you control these, or you're able to use, so he's using his fear power there, is that what he's doing? Okay, and what does that enable you to do? So that's brought us into
that really, basically, it turns the army screen into a mission creation screen. So whenever you grab one of these Nemesis enemies, you can dominate them. They're bent to your will. They're completely under your control. So now, there's a whole bunch of choices. You could use them to deliver a death threat, so they'll go away, deliver a death threat. You can just kill them if you want. They'll drop a rune there, and you can collect that and upgrade your weapon.
Like we're doing right here?
Like we just did that, and then indeed that's an epic rune, so that's quite fun. That's going to let us get ammo back for exploding the heads of our enemies, so that's always quite powerful.
That's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like peanut butter and chocolate.
Let's explode some enemy heads. Come on, Jessica.
I bet she can do that. Get some ammo. Yeah, we'll blow some heads up if Jessica can hear us. Let's see some.
Yeah, she's going for it. Here we go. Oh no, we're just gonna go for a straight up. Wow. So it seems you can chain your attacks.
There
there it is.
That was a head. Boom. There comes our ammo coming back. So
definitely
it really lets you, control your combat style, and then that lets us build our ammo, and then because of our focus, we can take guys down really powerfully in combat that way as well.
So with the counters, I'm not seeing any button prompts. Is it all about timing? Is that, or are there button prompts that I'm just missing?
The button prompts are optional, depending on how clean you want the UI to be. Jessica's obviously pretty much a master of our combat at this point. But yeah, if you want the button prompts on, they'll be in there as well. And so I was just going back, and then so also when they're dominated, you can send them on missions. So you can send them either to challenge and murder other, fight duels against other orcs, and they'll increase in power. So of course, once one of these Nemesis enemies is part of your army, you're going to want him to be more powerful because you're going to be taking him against the Dark Lord and the Black Captains in these later missions. So you can actively create missions, farm them up, escort these guys, grow them in power, get them all the way up to being a war chief. You can infiltrate them into the personal bodyguard of other war chiefs. You can build sort of posses of bodyguards for your own war chiefs, and you can make them ride against each other. So it really is like a mission creator, totally embedded into the world of the game.
Is there a lot of different wildlife? We've seen you riding those creatures a couple of times. What other type of kind of Lord of the Rings wildlife you're going to come across?
So the other one, the ones that we're sort of showing here in the Sea of Nirn, there's a number of different creatures. The ones that are really useful for you as a player, there's the Caragors, they're really handy mounts.
Yeah.
And there's also the Graugs, and there's a range of those guys, and they're the sort of huge Titanic enemies. And then just like with the Orcs, where there's rare and more powerful versions, there's some of that on the wildlife as well. And then at night, we have ghouls, which are these swarming enemies that come out, and there's a number of different subspecies and types of those guys as well. So extremely dangerous kind of ecosystem interacting with the kind of orc society as well.
So what's happened here? We've seen that there was like pitching two armies against each other. Is this because we controlled that other guy?
Yep.
Said,
so
right,
when we see the icon there, that's got the blue icon.
Yeah.
That's our forces, and they've actually been sent to riot against another war chief as well. And this is one of the bodyguards of that war chief. So both of these gangs, each of the war chiefs are going to face off. It's our guys versus the enemies. And there's a huge number of ways this could play out. We could either kill and defeat the enemy war chief. Of course, there's a risk that our own guy's going to die. We could dominate one of his bodyguards, and then if he dies, he'll replace him. So this is, really one of the means we can get closer to that goal. Marwyn said, okay, go out, build your army, dominate these war chiefs, but very much however we do that is going to be up to us. So he's going to know that we've invaded this riot. His showdown's going to reflect that as well. He's still feeling pretty confident. He's still got his bodyguard there backing him up. Actually, two of his bodyguards. But now we see one of those bodyguards. His icon's gone green.
Yeah.
That means he's weak enough we could grab him and dominate him now. Or Jessica could. It could be a bit tough in the midst of this fight.
Yeah, there's a lot of
probably
stabbing
maybe
going
worth
on.
a try if we can get him isolated.
This guy here. The guy with the green
guys.
there. There he is, yeah.
So he's going to go in for the showdown. He's pretty crazy.
Tars Madai.
Man,
Yep,
right.
he looks lovely.
He's happy to see us. But if we can bend him to our will and defeat his war chief, then we're going to have one step closer to building our army. Go, Jess. Oh, so close. We got poisoned then. That other guy's got a poison weapon, so he actually knocked us out of the domination. But of course, the other thing to balance here is you can't bend them to your will if they're dead. So we kind of want to keep him alive as well. Okay. Something else that's really powerful with your Wraith abilities, you can pin them in place, which is really handy if you kind of want to leave them held there. Okay, here's our chance.
So you can hold them up as well, like that.
This is it. We're also... Oh, no! So not only did he knock us out, he also managed to drive us down to one knee. So that's our last chance. Because our combat's pretty intense, we give you one chance to come back from it. Okay, so that poisoner, he's dead, and he in fact was killed by our war chief. So that's our follower managed to take him out, and now, Mad Eye's dead. So we're not going to be dominating him, but we can always adapt. There's always another opportunity because now we can weaken this war chief, give him a quick shanking, see if we can wear him down, and then still maybe come out of this with two war chiefs. One way or another, he's either going to die, or Jessica's going to die, or we're going to dominate him. So there's still a lot of, we just so much didn't want that thing of, okay, you play this mission, you fail this mission, you play that mission again.
Yeah.
Everything always opens up new possibilities every time, and we've got no idea. I still have no idea what's going to happen here, but I think Jess is going to get this guy, wear him down, grab him, and nope,
he's dead.
He's dead.
He's gone. To the neck.
And some of them, they can't be broken. Their willpower's too strong, so, you have to kill them. There's no choice. But so that's the end of another war chief. He's definitely not coming back from that. There's a bunch of ways they can die, whether it's mauled by monsters, died in combat, stabbed in the back by their friends, burned, stung, poisoned. So many ways they can die. And they each have different, unique scars. So you'll come back with these really iconic guys that aren't just...
We got a couple of runes here, is that right?
What do we got? So here we're actually, this is handy. So this is another one. We're really going to have plenty of ammo if we wanted to be taking these guys down with the bow, because we can earn ammo from either flurrying the guys to death or exploding their heads. So
there's a bunch of...
Whoa. And now at the end of that fight, it's not over because the Karagor's come in and he's now attacking our war chief. So our boss could have been at risk then as well. So even as you build your army, it's still going to be at risk because you've constantly in this really dangerous environment. Now they're both dominated, they're both happy, so that's good.
Great, that went pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, so we didn't come out of it with another war chief, but we absolutely did come out of it with one eliminated. So if we went back to the army screen at this point, which we can do by burrowing into this guy's mind, we can see the world's evolved. So the guy we just decapitated, just decapitated, his head's up on a spike up there, so we can see how he turned out. And zoom in. To the right of him, we can see the blue icon. That represents our growing army. So we're kind of one little part of the way towards building our army.
Excellent. This guy, so yep,
so now we
Skog the
can send a
Devourer
death
is
threat.
now.
He's got a gang. He's leveled up. It's going to be an even tougher fight, but I've got no doubt Jess can do it. Depending, how long have we got? Have we got enough time to go after him?
Cool. Well, Michael, I think that's actually all we got time for. But thank you so much for that. Was a great demo, and thanks as well, Jessica. That was some fine beheading there. But yeah, it's great to have you back on stage.
Thank you very much,
guys. Watching.